You commented and we listened. Today, we'll be talking about the Anunnaki. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Mysteries with the History, where you'll be taken on a wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. And with each episode together, we will peel away the layers to look for the truth. I'm very excited for this episode, and I simply cannot do it without my co host, Jimmy Church of Fade to Black Radio. Jimmy, happy Thursday.
Gomez, it's good to see you too. How you doing?
Okay, I'm
doing
ready.
great, thank
My
you.
my lights were off. I had to turn on my lights. I had the thing, and I had this. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Got stuff in my teeth because
He
all
was
right.
doubling in an omelet right before the show.
Man, I was doing everything that I could. I feel great. What an amazing topic today. Hello, everybody. Today's the Anunnaki. Now, the Anunnaki, Cristina, my lights are good, right? Okay, I just turned them all on. Okay, good. The Anunnaki, especially in this community, is a subject that has never really waned, right? It's always there. It's always percolating, and there's always new research, and there's things. But for me, many years ago, I don't want to show my age here, but I remember first hearing about the Anunnaki in my teens, and it started to, gather information. It was such a crazy subject and a crazy idea, and I was hearing these different things. So I've been, chasing this for decades. For you, this just popped up out of nowhere. We've never really covered the Anunnaki before. What's going on?
I think the last time we covered the Anunnaki had to be one of the very first shows that we did together dealing with different alien races. We spoke about the Anunnaki, but that was like almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
And since then, we haven't really spoken about it. And this is a topic that you're right. It really hits home for a lot of people when it comes to researching the UFO phenomenon. And I thought, you know what, maybe now is the time to cover it. A lot of people ask us about it. When I do one-on-ones with certain people, they're like, what do you think about the Anunnaki? And I'm thinking, not that much, because I'm not super familiar with it enough to do a whole hour conversation on it. But there is a lot to this topic, and the stories of the Anunnaki have been passed down for generations, but it really got a foothold in almost pop culture when it by Zachariah Sitchin. He was kind of the guy that said, "All right, everyone, you need to look into this. This is super interesting stuff." As he was attempting to translate the Sumerian tablets and a few other scriptures, and he was with the research that he did and the translations that he did, he really kind of branched out from the more conventional ideas of the Anunnaki to things a little bit more out there, a little bit more in space. And it truly is a very interesting and sometimes dark topic to talk about today.
Well, okay. Now, that was great, and I love the summary, but you didn't answer the question. So now let's back up again. What popped up between yesterday and today that you went, church, we're doing the Anunnaki?
I'm pretty sure I answered the question.
Oh, that's
Because
it. That's it. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out.
You can't leave. You signed an NDA. You
I
signed a
did.
contract. You
I
can't
did.
leave, Jimmy.
I did. I mean, there is something that, is it research? Is it somebody? Billy Carson's got his new TV series out. There are a lot of comments going on right now throughout social media, not only because of Billy, but other researchers that are looking into this. So did you see a post? Did you see something that just made you go, you know what? This is what we're going to do?
It was a consistency. It was people commenting on it, people asking me about it, seeing it online. And so it was just an amalgam of a bunch of different things happening at around the same time.
Yeah. Okay. See, and that's exactly what I'm saying. It's always, you know what I mean? It's like a pot of really good Italian red sauce. right? It's
Oh.
always percolating, right? It's always bubbling. It's always like
Is
right
the word
there.
of the day today with you, Jimmy. And you know
Yeah.
what? I can dig it.
Yeah. And so let me kind of start things off here with a general thought. The Anunnaki is a subject that we have data on. We've got it carved in stone. We've got sculptures. We've got Sumerian tablets. We've got rollers and stamps and handed down stories and the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's just on and on. We have a lot of stuff out there now. When it comes to picking it apart and deciphering it, there are multiple ways to look at this and check it out. Now, I'll say this. This was probably right around the start of the internet, like around 95 or so, 96, 97. But it was early on when I'm researching the Anunnaki, and then suddenly the University of Chicago comes out, and I'm reading Sitchin and Lloyd Pye and others jumping into this. And then the University of Chicago releases an interactive, and this was pretty rare for this early version of the internet, a searchable translation of the Sumerian text. So you type in your word in English, what is it, right? And then it'll find it on the Sumerian tablets, and then you could take it a step further and see what excuse me for a second, something in my throat, a little scratchy, and then go. So I would, and having this, I would take these statements from Sitchin and punch them in and search it. And that was a pretty fascinating, and I spent weeks on this, picking it apart. Now, and then I'll hand it off to you because we've got a whole lot to cover today. There are versions of the 12th planet and what Sitchin was saying that absolutely 100% is in the Sumerian text. It's right there. It's on a tablet. And it's like, holy crap. Now, and then you have the Orthodox academic version of the same text and their interpretation of it. Now, nobody was there. Nobody was there to experience it, but the idea behind most of it is clearly right there. Whether it's academia or Sitchin, the ideas presented are right there, and which also includes the Epic of Gilgamesh, which mentions the Anunnaki. We'll get back to that. But we have this today, Cristina. That is the fascinating part about this. You know, whether it's pine cones and handbags or DNA and wars on Mars and planets and the creation myth and humans, all of that, it's actually in the text. And it's how you want to, translate it and transmute it and turn it into something today. That's the fascinating part about the Anunnaki.
I completely agree with you. And looking at the 12th planet, I think that's a good place to continue on with this conversation, is that it's been classified as Nibiru according to the tablets. But what's really interesting is that there was a proposal made back in 2006 by the International Astronomical Union, and they had a meeting in Prague to talk exactly about that, because they believed during this time frame that there was a planet just right outside of our solar system that at some point within like 3,600 years or so could smash into Earth, causing this whole issue, right? And this is something that has been, again, in the Sumerian texts about this 12th planet known as Nibiru. Now, something to mention is that with the Mesopotamians, they believed that the sun was also a planet. So that added to the level of like 8 or 9 planets, if you also want to include Pluto as well, and same as the moon. But what's really interesting about this 12 planet model is the fact that scientists in the more recent years have been taking that possibility seriously, also known as Planet X as well. And then you have some astronomers that say, nope, that's not possible. It's outside of the Kepler belt. It's never going to crash with us. Actually, there's even a planet there that's even in and around our orbit. But there are other astronomers and scientists that say, you know what, there's a higher possibility. And now with the new technology that we have, like the Hubble and the JWST, the James Webb Space Telescope, it's going to be really interesting to hear what they have to say about the Planet X, or the 12th planet. I know I said the Kepler belt, but it is the what is it, Jimmy? It's skipping my mind. It's the Kuiper belt.
The Kuiper belt. Well, okay.
Kuiper belt. Okay, thank you. I said the Kepler belt like a silly person, but hopefully people knew what I was referring to. But with this, I do think it's a really interesting to see how consistently how scientists are looking at ancient stories, cultures, even folklore, and then adding some credibility to it. We've seen it consistently when it comes to the UFO phenomenon, and we're also seeing it here with the 12th planet, or Planet X.
Well, that's why I always go back to science, right? I'm always looking at what science is saying and then comparing that to these Sumerian tablets and part of this mythology that is there. Now, 3,600 year orbit, right? Okay. So here we are in 2000. So if we, 2000 and what are we, 2024. So back that up 3,600 years or so, and what was happening back then. Okay. And what were the astronomical and cosmological references in the historical record at that time? We have those. So that's interesting. But then you can back it up. If it's every 3,600 years, back it up 3,600 years before that. And what do we have, right? What are the references that are there? And it's always seems to be something happening. And then you land on this number, 10,500 BC, and this weird correlation. So we have that. But 4 years ago, and it was extraordinary, Caltech makes this announcement about 4.5 years ago, that there is indeed a planetary body outside of our solar system that is having a gravitational effect on Neptune and Uranus. Now, when that broke out, there were a couple of statements that were made there that were, groundbreaking, fascinating, and mind-blowing. Number one, the statement was, well, we can't see it because it's too far away from our sun and it's not reflecting sunlight. It's an interesting thing. Now, we see stars at a great distance because they're lit up, right? They're self-illuminating. But something else out there in deep space, and that's why it's very hard to even look at Neptune and Uranus and even Pluto, because it's reflecting something. But that's how far it is. But this is out beyond that, and it's not reflecting sunlight. Therefore, we don't see it. But what we do have is the gravitational mass pulling on our outer planets that are being affected by another mass that is out there. So what could it be? And the only answer that fits that model is there is another planet out there that is orbiting. Now, that's crazy. Now, could that be Nibiru, which is, according to the myth, the story, I should say, the Anunnaki's home planet? And we'll get to that in a second, more about Nibiru. But now let's look at this 3,600 year situation, right? So if we back up 3,600 years ago, and Nibiru making its pass by Earth and our sun and then back out. Is this planetary body that was discovered by Caltech and their astrophysicist team, is that Nibiru coming back? Right? And is there a possibility here that all of this is going to start to make some sense? That's what I do. I go back to the science. And when science says something like this, and you look back at these creation stories with Enki and Enlil and Marduk and the etymology behind Anunnaki, and then look at Gilgamesh, all of this supports. Right. And they don't want to do it. I'm talking about Orthodox academia. They don't want it to go there. It just is, Cristina.
And that's what I really enjoy about doing the research on these topics, but also just having others do the research, other scientists looking into this as well, because it does add that little level of credibility that so many of us want to see. Is this serious note taken on it with research and data and a paper trail, more so than just a story being passed down? But as I always say, every story, every legend, every myth has a nugget of truth behind them. And something else to mention, just while we're just slightly on the same topic of this planet Nibiru, is why would they come to Earth? You know, like that's the big question. And there are these ideas that they enslaved humanity in order to mine gold to help them and their planet from radiation. And there's also some other ideas of, well, that's the main idea on why people believe that the Anunnaki came to the Earth who knows how long ago. But there's some other ideas of, did they tamper with the humans' DNA? And according to the Sumerian tablets, there has been some stuff written down about what the Anunnaki have provided to humanity. And this includes things such as archaeological discoveries that have been made just rather recently that are looking at advanced archaeological structures and sophisticated irrigation systems, along with very intricate works of art. Apparently, they helped with agriculture, medicine, and Mesopotamia, as we know, we're taught this in school, is that was one of the very first civilization, in the sense of where you had a city, you had a lot of working parts, you had agriculture, you had irrigation, all of these different things, where we went from cavemen into a more civilized society. This is what we are taught in middle school, elementary school. And so how do we get that shift so quickly? And people's ideas is that, well, it had to be the Anunnaki, it had to be help from an extraterrestrial civilization or beings in order to assist us to have this evolution to the point that we have today. Now, what the question would be, why would they bother? Why would they care to help elevate a civilization, a population, a species? Well, the idea is that the more educated they are, the more efficient they are, the better they will be able to mine gold in order to provide the minerals that are required for them. And so this is something that a lot of people have interest in when it comes to researching the Anunnaki. But Jimmy, for yourself, when you came across that particular information, do you think it has a level of credibility to it, or is it just kind of insane?
Okay, so all great points. And let me answer your question first, and then I'll back up. What do we use here on Earth? What do astronauts have on their visors when they're taking a spacewalk? Gold. What do we use? Right? Gold foil when we land. Gold. We use gold. Right? And so the references and the points that Sitchin made and others is that they needed gold to turn into dust to spray into their atmosphere on Nibiru because their atmosphere was damaged, to protect Nibiru from radiation. Well, Okay, that sounds pretty fun, but that's exactly what we do. Right? That's exactly that. It's the same. And that part of it is where you go, okay. All right. And that's a very small part of it. So the other side about the mining of the gold is that the Anunnaki come to Earth looking for gold. They are originally mining it in in a section of South Africa. We kind of run out of gold, but also the Anunnaki themselves didn't want to do the manual labor, right? So they come over, they look at what is roaming the earth, and they go, okay, let's modify some of this and create some workers, right? And so they do the snip snip. Homo sapiens sapiens shows up, and they used us to mine their gold, and eventually wound up in Mesopotamia and deeper mines and more gold, but deeper and harder work. So they put us in place for their labor system. All right, now wait. Now let's back up. Again, sounds far fetched, except the Sumerian tablets say this happened 200,000 years ago. What else happened 200,000 years ago? According to the education system, what else happened? Homo sapiens sapiens just shows up on planet Earth, right? And now, wait a minute. We've got this creation myth story in the Sumerian tablets that says that the Anunnaki does the snip snip and creates humans to mine their gold 200,000 years ago. If you go into the fossil record, you go anthropology, you get into this, and everybody says the same thing. We have no fossil record. All we have is Homo sapiens sapiens showing up 200,000 years ago with 46 instead of 48 chromosomes. That somewhere our DNA was modified. Now that goes exactly right. That's exact, and it matches up. So now you have to back up and just ask yourself, is there something to this? Is there something more? Because when you look at it and you keep piling it up and you keep piling it up, it matches up with our own historical dogma that we are fed in school. And there has to be something to it. Now, I'll say one more thing on this point. If that is indeed the case, and these questions are all answered, what is wrong with that? What is wrong? And why is it that the education system and the biologists and the chemists and the anthropologists and the archaeologists want to argue this point that no, the 46 chromosomes and Homo sapiens sapien, and we haven't found the missing link, but that's okay. It's not that big of a deal. No, it is a big deal. We want to know where we came from, and we've got a story like this, and you are saying this. Are the two related, and does this answer the question that you can't answer? And that's where we are today with the Anunnaki story. It's so fascinating.
It is. And if it was taught in school, it would definitely shatter the foundation that we currently have of our human timeline. Because if there is this ulterior or this different motive right outside of our own, then it shakes the foundation a little bit too much for people to handle. And then there is that lack of control as well. Before we continue, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, thank you so much. I appreciate you. For those that didn't know, I was on his show, it was like a week ago or so, and we talked about everything referring to UFOs and cryptids and some other really cool stuff. Do take a look at that. And Daniel, thank you for being a member for 21 months. You're so awesome. And P-Dubs, thank you so much as well for supporting the channel. I appreciate all of you and everyone watching this live. If you're enjoying the show, hit that like button right down below. That is one of the best ways to support this channel. To continue onward with another piece, of this conversation is actually, I'm going to go back to this image here, looking at the pine cone and the bag. This is something that has been talked about at length, especially on people that are a part of ancient aliens and that go with the ancient astronaut theories, because when we look into the Anunnaki, even up until today, with some more recent depictions like this one that we see at the Vatican, we have to ask, what the heck does this pine cone mean, and why are these entities carrying a bag? Not only do we see it in Mesopotamian art, we also see it in art in India as well, and South America, and a few other countries and continents as well. So why is there this level of consistency? And there are some very interesting theories on this. And I'm looking at the pine cone to start off with. People think it has to do with fertility and also the pineal gland or the third eye. And when looking up the symbology of the pine cone at the Vatican, because obviously we have to ask ourselves, why is there going to be a ginormous statue of a pine cone at the Vatican? Like, why isn't it Jesus on the cross or something, right? Why does it have to be a pine cone? And for their ideas, because we don't really have a definite answer on why there's a pine cone there,
Oh,
but
I
some
do.
ideas have
I
to go
do.
back to, well, so it's 4 meters high and 2.5 meters wide, and it dates back to the 2nd century, and it has to do, well, the meaning has to be immortality and rebirth. Now, in the Celtic religions, women believed that placing a pine cone under their pillow would promote fertility. And then when we're looking at pine cones with the Anunnaki, there is this idea that people think that has to do with genetic manipulation and along with agriculture as well. Jimmy said that you had the answer. Oh, also, David, thank you so much for that. So, what do you think about this whole pine cone theory?
Okay. All right. So this is the deal. I've been researching this for a long time. I have the answers.
Ooh, okay.
The pine cone represents knowledge and data. All right. So that's it. And whether it is with some winged Anunnaki god or it's a sculpture in the middle of the Vatican, it's at the Vatican, it has the knowledge, has the data. All right. Now, with the same representation is with the Sumerian god, the Anunnaki, or any other culture in the world, because this has always represented from the beginning of Homo sapien sapien. It is the symbol of data and knowledge. So you've got that in your right hand, as you can see here, and in the left hand. Okay. So pine cone, data storage, data vault, knowledge vault, library, knowledge. That is what the pine cone represents. Now, the bag is DNA. The bag is eggs. The bag is life. So in one hand, you have knowledge. And in the other hand, you have DNA and life. What do? Maybe you dip one into the other, right? And you pass that on. And you are the forebearers and the creators of life and knowledge. And that's what it is. That's what it is. And anybody out there, go ahead. Come on, bring it. You're going to lose. That is it. So you can now move forward and go, I know what the handbag is. I know what the pine cone is. The pine cone with the Anunnaki and the pine cone with the Vatican, that's what it represents.
That's a really interesting theory, and it's When we look at the handbags in particular, once again, it is consistent across cultures, across ancient artwork. And would the meaning be the same across cultures? Do you think that is
Yes,
a definite
yes,
yes?
yes. I do. I do. We see the same thing across cultures throughout history around the world, and that's why. That's why. That's why. And now remember, this goes back 200,000 years, right? This is the beginning of Homo sapien sapien. So there you go. Knowledge, life, knowledge, eggs, data, DNA, and you're combining the two of them. So there you go. And but let me back up. Let me back up and bring up a couple of things. Let's get to a foundation and why I come to these things. The name Anunnaki is this right here is so amazing. It is derived and means the god of the sky. Now, you just got to digest that for a second. Where's this coming from? So long ago, right? It's the god of the sky, not the sun god, not the moon god, not the rain god, right? Not the fire god. It's none of that. It's the god of the sky. The name is written, the second half of it, you have Anunnaki and you have Danuna, Anunnaki, and you combine the two, and that means, and the Danuna part, Anunnaki, means princely offspring. The Anunnaki, the offspring of those from space, right? From out there. That's the Sumerians, all of these ancient cultures. And I'm going to drive this home, and then I'm going to take it to my next point. They didn't have Steven Spielberg. I mean, it's obvious, right? They didn't have Marvel, right? They didn't have Arthur C. Clarke. They didn't have these things. They didn't have science fiction. They didn't have any of that. So today we can create stories and talk and do things because we have this foundation of fiction and nonfiction and science and knowledge to base things on. But back then, to talk about planets and orbits and gold and radiation and offspring from people from space, this whole thing has to come from reality. And that's why the name Anunnaki is so important. You just go to that etymology right there, on and key, and you jump to some of the key players in this, like Enlil and Marduk and Enki. Enki was the god who created humans. He was the one, man. We need the gold, and it was Enki, right? And Enlil, he separated heaven and earth, the on and the key. It's all of this is just where's this coming from? Space and earth, Nibiru, right? All of this. And then Marduk is even more crazy because Marduk coming into the story, and there are other people out there that tell this. They have an immense knowledge of the Epic of Gilgamesh and who the players are, and Mars and wars and all of that. But Marduk, in the myth side of it, in the Sumerian Scythian side of it, is a very interesting individual. But in the Orthodox academia side, they're like, Marduk was nobody. He's nobody. He's not a player. It's like really, really weird how academia wants to take this story and keep it simple and non-interesting. It's amazing. You can look at any reference to Marduk in academia, and they're like, he was just a dude that lived in a city. You know, there's no God attributes to him. The whole thing is amazing. Now, really quick, when we go to the Orthodox academic take on the Anunnaki, and then I'll flip it back over to you, is that they were nothing but imagined gods, descendants of An and Ki. That's it. The story of a god in the heavens and a goddess of the earth, and that they were just here for the fate of humanity. It's the same religious story that we have around over and over again that repeats. And that is the Orthodox academic take on the Sumerian tablets, which is fascinating to me, how you can have these two different views of the same ancient text.
And not only that, but we can probably assume here that there have been some Sumerian texts that have either been confiscated or hidden in some laboratory or library that might be able to fill in the gaps on where we might fall short, because we only have so much information. And Marty here is so right, is that academia is very, very conservative in the sense of keeping information to themselves and only really provide information out there that is beneficial to them more so than the public. So let me ask you this, and actually everyone that's listening and watching this, not to this, and that is, let's say we received all the information about the Anunnaki, and maybe everything that we've heard about them is completely true. Let's just imagine that just for a moment. How would that affect humanity? Would it be for the better? Would it be for the worse? Would it add fear? Would it add this sense of not being in control of your life? And maybe there's all this talk about destiny. What do you think, or how do you think humanity would react to this information if it all came out to the public? Let's say the Pope from the Vatican said, yep, we have all the information. Come to the library in the Vatican and I'll give you all the information about the Anunnaki. How would
we have been, I don't think we would freak out. Okay. Has there been a suppression of this? Only to a degree. All right. Only to a degree. And what I mean by that is the Epic of Gilgamesh has been quoted and known for a long time. That same myth, that same creation story is told in the Bible. It's on walls in Egypt. It's every culture has got a flood myth, and the Epic of Gilgamesh, which mentions the Anunnaki. All right, now, and by name, by the way. And this is one of the oldest texts, one of the oldest surviving texts in the world. And it describes the Anunnaki as the 7 judges of the underworld. Now, again, you have to ask yourself, where is all of this coming from? The references are there. Historically, they are there. And the world has been hearing about it for thousands of years. So if the revelations come out, it's going to be like, well, yeah, okay, all right. We've been reading about this and hearing about this our entire lives. Okay, so if you want to come out and say it now, yeah, but we're not surprised. And I think that's going to be the reaction. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, I will say this, Cristina, people like you and myself and other researchers and people like Sitchin, right, that in the future, as all of this continues to percolate, right, and bubble to the surface, that we are going to be on the right side of history. I don't think that there's another real way to explain the creation of humans and Homo sapien. We don't have a real explanation for the chromosome and the DNA modification. We don't have that. We don't have anything in the fossil record. What we do have is the Sumerian tablets that cover 350,000 years of history. Now, I just said that the human race, Homo sapiens sapien, is 200,000 years old. That's how long the Anunnaki were here on Earth before humans were created. Now, how do the Sumerians imagine up a 400 to 350,000 year timeline and do this in the second millennium BC and put it down into stone? That's 4,000 years ago. So I just feel that there's a strong foundation here for this story, and that we will be on the right side of history when it all plays out.
Well, I guess it wouldn't matter if there's a right side of history if they come back and take us as slaves all over again. It would just be like, dang, got some hard work to do.
Man. I don't think it's that kind of party. I don't think it's that kind of party.
Is there I just salsa at that party?
Yeah, I just don't think that it is. Now, let's say, and it's going to happen eventually. Let's say, I don't know if it's going to be Nibiru, but let's say that 10th planet, that 12th planet does enter our solar system, and there are inhabitants on it, and that, yes, they are doing a 3,600 year visit back to us, and it's just what they do every 3,600 years, and that all of this plays out. Let's say it goes that far. Are they going to come back to mine gold, or have they found gold out there? Are they just going to come by and check up on us? Are we going to go out and visit the planet first? Is there going to be communication between the two? Because we have evolved, and I think that they would have some interest in that. And they would have evolved further too over that 3,600 year period. Since they last visited Earth and were in our solar system. So I'm not going to be surprised. I think that there is evidence that there is a 10th planet, a 9th planet, 10th planet, 12th planet, that it's sitting out there. And as it approaches us, we will slowly start to see it from our sunlight.
What would also be interesting is to know if they are going on other planets that might have an abundance in gold and harvesting from those locations as well. Are they going from planet to planet, affecting the intelligent species evolution to what we have today? Could it be, for instance, and let's just have a little fun here, could it be, for instance, that some of these UFOs that are visiting Earth, these unknown craft that are extraterrestrial, or even entities coming to planet Earth, could they have also been tampered with the Anunnaki, creating that evolution of advanced technology? And at some point, we might also be on that same path. It's just a fun thought that I think it might be interesting for those listening and watching this. But could they, in some form, be both creators and destroyers, almost like Shiva? Remember that, because we're going to get back into that. But let's just say that they are taking people, making them into slaves to accumulate gold, but at the same time, they are giving knowledge, irrigation, agriculture, medicine, and so on for the benefit of that species living on that planet Earth, giving a little bit of both, being that balance. Now, I mentioned Shiva. Let's get back into that, because there are some stories that the Anunnaki have blue skin. Some say they have kind of like reddish skin, some say like regular pale skin, and some say blue skin. Could they be, or could they have blue blood? And this is I'm actually pretty excited for this theory, because first of all, the concept of blue blood was passed down supposedly by the Spaniards, that relates to royalty. Those that are inside, the more pale you are, the more it shows how rich you are compared to those that work outside and are a bit more tan. And this same idea of potentially, if the Anunnaki have blue blood or blue skin, is that how maybe we received that understanding that blue blood is the equivalent to royalty? Because Jimmy, as you had mentioned, the term Anunnaki, it's those from the heavens, right? Like the sun of the heavens. Could it be something similar? Now, I had to do some more research onto, okay, well, what creatures here on Earth have blue blood? And these include crustaceans, mollusks, and the horseshoe crab. These are all ocean animals. Okay, what if, I'm having a little fun here, what if the Anunnaki are a form of amphibians? And or maybe they have that kind of deal in their DNA to the point where they're able to have copper rich blood more so than humans, where we don't have that. That's why blood is blue for these crustaceans, is because of the copper richness in their blood. Actually, I'm just going to leave that there. What do you think about that?
Oh, well, okay. So, yes, you have the references of the Spanish and royalty and blue blood, right? Okay. All right. We have that. That's recent history. But this is 30 years ago. All right. So I do my searches on blue blood and the Sumerian text, and there it is. It's right there. And so there are, and we are talking about again 2000 to 2500 BC when this stuff was written down. And one of it's a heck of a story. I'm not going to get fully into it. It'll take a couple of hours. That the Anunnaki had blue blood, transferred that blood, bit each other, drank blood, drank drinks that changed their blood from iron to copper. Now, this is in the text, right? And so you go and you read this, and Anu and this confrontation and what goes on, and they kiss and make up and they have dinner, and again, this is all part of the story, and they celebrate and they drink and they toast, and their blood changes from iron to copper, from red to blue. Now, isn't that interesting? Now, you can have what's the connection with the Spanish and royalty, right? Well, I think it's an obvious one. When you make this statement about mining for gold and copper, where does this come from? From a pre-Bronze Age culture, right? How do they know about the principles of iron and copper and blood systems? How do they know this? Unless there's a foundation of truth.
Behind every legend and every folklore, there is a nugget of truth. Now, could that be the case with the Anunnaki? Did they actually exist, or could we just have been super intelligent a few thousand years ago to where we figured out on our own how to do irrigation and medicine and all these other things during the era of Mesopotamia? Or did we have assistance? And even then, will they come back? I think that's another question that are on a lot of people's minds that look into this topic. Or are they already here and they're monitoring things, maybe even underground? And maybe they're a part of some of the alien abductions that take place here. Why would you leave an investment, right? They invested a lot. If we follow the stories to a T, they invested a lot into humanity. Why would they leave?
No, they have their own planet. They have their own planet with their own atmosphere and their own life and their own thing. And no, Nibiru came back. Anunnaki jumped up on it. They were done. They were done mining the gold. Homo sapiens sapiens was getting smarter, and they were having to deal with us. And they were like, man, we can either hang out here and fight this battle, or we can go back home. And I think that's ultimately what happened. Now, I want to go back to what I said originally on this show. We can talk about Dogman, and we can talk about the different mythological creatures and these things with different societies and cultures here on Earth. And it's a fascinating subject. When it comes to the Anunnaki, this is different. We have a large foundation of written, carved, painted, spoken, handed down knowledge and facts on the Anunnaki that we have, that almost nothing else relates in human history like that, like what we have with the Anunnaki. So were the Anunnaki real? 100%. I firmly, absolutely believe that. And again, without repeating myself, all of this, everybody, is researchable. You can go and jump down into this and take the words, take the search terms, and then go and look at all of this and compare that with what we have collected and line that up with the science side of it and look at the chronology and look at the linear time scale and just start matching up dates and times and places, and it fits into what our science data says. That's the part about the Anunnaki that is so fascinating. We have a huge amount of this in stone, Cristina, in stone. And now, one other point that I want to make, and this is 4,500 years old minimum that it is written on these printable rolls in the tablets and on walls. We have astronomy, we have planets, we have alignments, we have cosmological events, all of this right there, 4,500 years old. That kind of knowledge and that lining up with the space and the sky god part of the Sumerian story and the Anunnaki story, it all fits. Now we can go and look at how is it possible when you look at this, the knowledge of planets, the knowledge of bodies out there in the universe. And then it's represented right there in stone. It isn't up to guessing. It's not up to the imagination. It's represented right there in stone for us to see today. And all of this, again, is researchable. You can go and look up all of it and line it up to the historical record. That's the fascinating part.
I have another question for you. Do you think that the Anunnaki and the Nephilim are the same?
Mm-mm.
Or are they different?
Mm-mm. I don't. Okay. And we're out of time. I believe that we have been and continue to be visited by an infinite amount of civilizations. You cannot count. It's not 50. It's not 75. By the way, go and watch Prometheus. Okay? Go and watch Prometheus. Go and watch that. The first 15 minutes of Prometheus are freakishly good because it's everything. It's all right there. And it makes a lot of sense. So go and watch Prometheus. And I understand it's alien. And yes. And oh, by the way, there's a new alien. It's called Romulus. Did you know that? There's a new alien movie coming out.
There's a new Predator movie coming out called Badlands.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Really? No, that's going to be good. That's going to be good. Okay, so what was I just saying? I was just saying what?
The Nephilim and...
Oh, yeah, the Nephilim. We have been visited and continue to be visited by an infinite amount of life, right? So what do the Nephilim represent? Well, first off, the Nephilim are in a different time period. The Nephilim are a direct biblical reference. And so I just immediately go to angels, ET, aliens, and extraterrestrial, and NHI. And I'm fine with that. I think that's what I think the Nephilim represent a bunch of different intelligent life forms. I don't think it's one specific thing. The Anunnaki are the creators of us. Okay, that's a different situation altogether. So the Nephilim, different alien life form for sure. Yeah, I agree with that. But the Anunnaki, They created humans, and they were here 350,000 years ago, created humans about 200,000 years ago. End of story.
With this show, I have so many more questions than when I started doing the research for today. And Jimmy, this show could not have been possible without you. You brought in so much extra information that I didn't even consider. And so I want to say thank you so much for doing the show with me. And can you please do the honors of saying Mark's last name?
Tasaka. Tasaka. What does he say? Cristina and Jimmy snuck away from work for a brief moment, just enough time to say hi to you and Jimmy. Mark, you're the very best. Mark's been around since the dawn of time. Yeah. It's always great. And here we are wrapping up another week. Cristina, you got to hang out with me for the 2000th show on Monday night. It has been a wonderful week for me here. Not only in doing the show and stuff, but getting to, and I don't really think too personally about the show and where I'm at. I'm just doing I'm just chasing knowledge and doing my thing for everybody. But 2000 is a big number, and it has just been a very fun and enjoyable week. But to spend it with you on Monday night and to have you a part of that celebration, that meant a lot to me personally. So just thank you for that, and thank you for being a part of Fade to Black, and of course pulling me into this mysteries with the history world. And it's just been so much fun. So just thank you. I'll see everybody tonight on the show. Got comedian Paul Seaburn on the show tonight, and he's got a new book out. I'm just going to say it, Cristina, cover your ears. What would you say to a naked alien from space? That's the name of the book. That's the name of the book. And so, yeah. And that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to close out Fade to Black with Paul Seaburn tonight. He's amazing. He's a comedian. He wrote for the Tonight Show, and he's very talented. He's one of the editors and writers over at Mysterious Universe. A lot of talent. He puts a lot of thought into our community and contact and disclosure. And he's always got a really good spin on it. So that's what we're going to do tonight on the show. I'll see everybody later. Cristina, another good one. I'll talk to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have Jimmy on. We've been doing the show together for about 2 years now, and being a part of his 2000 episode was really an honor to be with a group of his friends as well, where we were all able to say good things about him. We all enjoy those kinds of things. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button right down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and please hit that notification bell, because tomorrow is going to be Strangest News of the Week at a different time to go around my work schedule. So you don't want to miss it. So make sure to hit that little bell so that you know when I know when we're going to go live. Before you head out, scan this QR code or click the link right down below that says all of Cristina's social media links. There you can find articles to all of the shows done right here on my website at strangeparadigms.com or on Medium at Cristina Gomez. And there is no H in Cristina. I will see you all tomorrow. Be safe. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies. If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe, as I do 3 videos right here every single week, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.